Taiho wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the broken climate regulator in front of him. The machine made a sad whining noise, like a dying animal. He had been working on the diplomatic ship Harmony's Edge for 3 years now, and he had fixed hundreds of these things. But today, nothing seemed to work right. The ship was full of important aliens from 12 different species. They had come for a big meeting about trade and peace. Taiho did not care about politics. He just wanted to fix things and go back to his small room to sleep. His communicator beeped. A message appeared on the screen. Climate failure in Guest Wing 7, Section 12. Fix immediately. Taiho sighed. Guest Wing 7 was where the Volanti delegation was staying. He had seen them walking through the corridors. They were tall and beautiful, with silver blue skin that seemed to glow softly. Their eyes were large and dark, like deep pools of water. They moved like dancers, graceful and proud. He had also heard they were very important. The Volanti Empire was one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. And now, their princess was on board this ship. Taiho picked up his toolbox and walked toward the guest wing. The corridors were quiet. Most of the delegates were in the main conference hall, arguing about things he did not understand. He preferred machines. Machines were simple. You could understand them. People were complicated. He reached Section 12 and looked at the door. The translation system on his communicator showed strange symbols he could not read. The ship's computer had been having problems all week. Sometimes the translations were wrong. Sometimes they showed nothing at all. He pressed the button next to the door. Maintenance, he said. I am here to fix the climate system. There was no answer. He waited for 10 seconds. Then he pressed the button again. Still nothing. Taiho checked his communicator. The work order said this was the right place. The room was marked as a maintenance access corridor. He shrugged and entered his override code. The door slid open. What he saw made him freeze completely. It was not a maintenance corridor. It was a bathing chamber, large and beautiful, with steam rising from pools of pale blue water. Strange flowers floated on the surface. The walls were covered with glowing crystals that made the whole room shimmer like a dream. And in the center of the room stood a Volanti woman. She had removed her formal robes. Her silver blue skin was completely exposed. But that was not what made Taiho's heart stop. It was the markings across her skin, from her shoulders down to her hands, from her chest to her stomach. Glowing patterns moved and shifted. They were like living light, blue and purple and white, dancing across her body like flames made of stars. They pulsed with her heartbeat. They swirled with her breath. They were the most beautiful thing Taiho had ever seen. The woman turned. Her large dark eyes met his. The look on her face said everything. First, there was shock. Her eyes went wide. Her mouth opened slightly. The markings on her skin flashed bright white, like lightning. Then came horror. Pure, absolute horror. Her hands moved to cover herself, but it was too late. He had already seen. The markings on her skin turned dark red, almost black, pulsing with something that looked like pain. Taiho dropped his toolbox. The metal crashed against the floor, loud in the silent room. I am sorry, he said. His voice came out weak and broken. I am so sorry. The computer said this was a maintenance room. I did not know. I am sorry. He turned and ran. Behind him. He heard a sound. It was not a scream. It was something worse. A low cry of despair that made his chest hurt. He ran through the corridors without thinking. His mind was spinning. He had made a terrible mistake. He could feel it in his bones. This was not just about seeing someone without clothes. This was something deeper. Something sacred. He did not know how right he was. Princess Yura stood alone in the bathing chamber. her hands pressed against her chest. Her markings still burned dark with shame. Tears ran down her silver-blue cheeks. In all her life, no one outside her family had ever seen her markings. The sacred patterns were given to each Volanthi at birth, written on their skin by the goddess herself. They were the signature of the soul, the map of the heart, the deepest truth of who you were. You showed them only to your parents, your siblings, and one day, if you were blessed, to the one you chose to bond with for life. No one else. Never. And now a human had seen them. A stranger. An alien from a species that had been crawling out of mud, while her ancestors built empires among the stars. She fell to her knees. The water from the pool soaked her skin, but she did not care. According to the old laws, there were only two paths now. The human could be executed for his crime. His eyes had seen what was forbidden. His life was now owed to her honor, or there was the other path. The ancient one. The one that said if an outsider witnessed your markings by accident, it was not chance. It was fate. The goddess had chosen. The witness must be bound to you forever. Yura closed her eyes. Her markings slowly faded back to their normal blue glow. But something had changed. Deep inside her chest, she felt a strange pull. Like a thread had been tied around her heart. She did not understand it. She did not want it, but the goddess had spoken. And Yura knew that her life would never be the same again. The next morning, Taiho woke up to the sound of boots outside his door. Heavy boots. Many of them. He barely had time to sit up before the door opened. 4 security guards walked in, their faces hard and serious. Behind them stood Ambassador Jian, Earth's lead diplomat. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that could cut through steel. "Get dressed," she said. "We have a problem." Taiho did not need to ask what problem. He had not slept all night. His mind kept showing him the same image over and over. The princess. Her markings. The look on her face. They took him to a small conference room deep inside the ship. Captain Doyen was already there, sitting at the head of the table. He was a tall man in his 60s, with a calm face that never showed fear. Taiho had always respected him. "Sit down," the captain said. Taiho sat. His hands were shaking. Ambassador Jian placed a tablet on the table. "Do you know what you did last night?" "I made a mistake," Taiho said. "I entered the wrong room. The computer translation was broken. I thought it was a maintenance corridor." "You saw the princess without her robes," the ambassador said. "But more than that, you saw her markings." Taiho nodded slowly. "The glowing patterns on her skin? Yes, I saw them." The ambassador closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were filled with something that looked like pity. "Those markings are sacred to the Volanthi. They show them only to family members or to their chosen life partners. No one else, ever." Taiho felt his stomach drop. "I did not know." "Of course you did not know. How could you? We have only been part of the galactic community for 5 years. We are still learning." The ambassador sat down across from him. "But the Volanthi do not care about what you knew or did not know. They care about their traditions. And according to their traditions, you have committed a terrible crime." The door opened again. A Volanthi male walked in. He was old, older than any Volanthi Taiho had seen before. His skin was pale gray instead of silver blue, and his markings were faded. He wore long white robes covered with golden symbols. "This is High Priest Morath," Ambassador Jian said. "He speaks for the Volanthi delegation." The old priest looked at Taiho with eyes that held no warmth. "You are the human who violated the princess." Taiho wanted to explain. He wanted to say it was an accident, but his voice would not come. "According to our sacred law," Morath continued, "there are 2 paths for someone who has seen what is forbidden. The first path is death. Your eyes have witnessed what they should not have witnessed. Therefore, your eyes must be closed forever. Taiho's blood turned cold. The second path is the right of binding. If the witness is bound to the one they saw, the violation becomes sacred union. The crime becomes destiny. Morith's thin lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. The princess must choose which path you will walk. Ambassador Jian stood up, her face red with anger. You cannot execute a human citizen for walking through the wrong door. This was an accident caused by a computer error. Your machines are your responsibility, Morith said calmly. The result is the same. Earth will not surrender one of its people for execution based on religious law we do not follow. Then you insult the Volanthi Empire. You insult our goddess. You insult our princess. Morith's voice was soft but sharp. Is this how humanity wants to be known in the galaxy? As a species that does not respect the sacred traditions of others? Captain Doyan raised his hand. Let us all calm down. There must be a solution that does not involve death or war. There is, Morith said. The right of binding. The human becomes the princess's bonded servant for eternity. His life belongs to her. His soul belongs to her. He will serve her until death. Taiho finally found his voice. I will accept responsibility for what I did. But I need to understand more. I need to know what this means to your people. I need to know what this means to your people. Morith looked at him with surprise. Perhaps he had expected the human to beg or cry. That night, Taiho sat alone in his small room. The guards had let him return, but he was not allowed to leave. He spent hours reading everything he could find about Volanthi culture. He learned about their goddess, their history, their traditions. He learned about the sacred markings and why they were so important. He felt truly terrible, not because he might die, because he had hurt someone without meaning to. He had violated something beautiful and sacred, even if he did not understand it. He tried to write an apology letter in the Volanthi language. The words were difficult. The grammar was strange. He made many mistakes, but he kept trying. Late at night, when the ship was quiet, his door opened. Princess Yura stood in the doorway. She wore a dark hood that covered her face. Her guards were nowhere to be seen. She had come alone. Taiho stood up quickly and looked at the floor. He could not meet her eyes. Look at me, she said. Her voice was cold but curious. He raised his head slowly. She pushed back her hood. Her silver-blue face was beautiful and sad. Her large dark eyes studied him like he was a strange creature she had never seen before. I expected to find a monster, she said. Or a fool. Someone who did not care about what he had done. I care, Taiho said. I care very much. I know an apology is not enough, but I am truly sorry. Yura saw the tablet on his bed. The Volanthi words he had been writing. His terrible, broken attempt to say sorry in her language thought something flickered in her eyes. Her markings, hidden beneath her robes, pulsed with a color she did not understand. You are strange, she said softly. Very strange for a human. Then she turned and left without another word. But as she walked back to her chambers, Yura realized something that frightened her. She did not want this human to die. The Great Council chamber was filled with representatives from 12 different species. They sat in a wide circle, their chairs raised on platforms that showed their rank. At the highest level sat the Volanthi delegation, their silver-blue faces calm and proud. Below them sat the others, including the small human delegation led by Ambassador Jian. Taiho stood alone in the center of the room. He wore simple clothes. His hands were empty. He had no weapons, no lawyers, no protection, except his own words. High Priest Morith stood and addressed the chamber. We gather today to judge the human called Taiho. He has committed a violation against Princess Yura of the Volanthi Empire. He has seen what is forbidden. Now he must face the consequences. Voices filled the room. Some species looked at Taiho with pity. Others looked at him with curiosity. A few seemed almost happy to see a human in trouble. Humanity was still new to the galaxy. Not everyone welcomed them. Ambassador Jian stood. The human delegation maintains that this was an accident. A computer error directed our engineer to the wrong room. He did not intend to violate anyone. Intent does not matter, Morris replied. The violation happened. The sacred was seen. This is fact. A tall alien with green scales and 4 arms spoke from the other side of the chamber. The Concordat respects all religious traditions. But we also respect the right of each species to protect its citizens. How do we balance these two principles? The argument went back and forth. Species took sides. Some supported the Volanthi. Some supported the humans. Some just wanted to see what would happen. Through it all, Princess Yura sat silent. Her face showed nothing. But beneath her robes, her markings were shifting constantly, cycling through colors she could not control. Finally, Taiho raised his hand. May I speak? The chamber fell silent. Morth frowned. You wish to defend yourself? No, Taiho said. I wish to take responsibility. He turned slowly, looking at all the faces around him. Aliens of every shape and color watched him with curious eyes. I am just an engineer, he began. I fix things. I am not important. I do not understand politics or religion or the complicated rules that govern the galaxy. But I understand one thing. I understand when I have done something wrong. He faced Princess Yura directly. She sat above him, her dark eyes unreadable. Princess, I cannot give you back what I took. I cannot unsee what I saw. No words can fix that. But I want you to know that I understand now what your markings mean to you. They are not just patterns on your skin. They are your soul made visible. Your truth written in light. His voice was steady, even though his heart was pounding. On Earth, we have a concept called dignity. It means that every person deserves respect, not because of what they own or what title they hold, simply because they exist. I violated your dignity, and for that, I am truly sorry. Morth waved his hand impatiently. Pretty words change nothing. The law demands justice. Then let me offer something, Taiho said. I will accept the right of binding. Gasps filled the chamber. Ambassador Jian shouted his name in protest. Captain Doyen's calm face finally showed shock. Taiho continued before anyone could stop him. But I ask for one change to the ritual. Not because I am afraid of the commitment, but because I believe that true bonds should be chosen, not forced. Morth's eyes narrowed. What change? Make the binding temporary. 1 year. During that year, I will serve the princess faithfully. I will learn your ways. I will do whatever she asks. And at the end of that year, both of us will have a choice. She can release me, and I will return to my people. Or we can choose to continue the bond by our own free will. The chamber exploded with noise. Some aliens laughed at the idea. Others argued loudly. The Volanthi delegation looked furious. This is not how the right works, Morth said. The binding is eternal. It has always been eternal. Then perhaps it is time for something new, Taiho replied. Not to disrespect your traditions, but to honor something that might be even more sacred. The right to choose. Princess Yura stood suddenly. The chamber fell silent. Everyone watched her. She walked down from her platform until she stood face to face with Taiho. Up close, she was taller than him by half a head. Her silver blue skin glowed softly in the light. Her dark eyes looked deep into his. Why? She asked quietly. Why would you offer this? You could fight. Your people could protect you. You might escape with your life, Because escaping is not the same as making things right, Taiho said. And because if my actions caused you pain, I should be willing to face the consequences. Not because your gods demand it. Because it is the right thing to do. Yura stared at him for a long moment. Her markings, hidden beneath her robes, began to glow brighter. A new color appeared among the blues and purples. A soft, warm gold that she had never seen before. She did not understand what it meant, but she felt something shift inside her chest, like a door opening. I accept his offer, she said, her voice clear and strong. 1 year of binding. And then we choose. Morath stepped forward in protest, but Yura raised her hand to silence him. I am the one who was wronged. This is my right. The goddess teaches that mercy can be as sacred as justice. Let this human show us what he truly is. She looked at Taiho one more time. You have 1 year to prove yourself, human. Do not waste it. Taiho bowed his head. I will not, princess. I promise. High Priest Morath watched with narrowed eyes. He did not approve of this break from tradition. But as he looked at the princess, he saw something that made him pause. Her hidden markings were shining through the fabric of her robes. And among them, clear as starlight, was the golden pattern of choice. The old priest had not seen that pattern in 300 years. It meant the goddess herself had touched this moment. Perhaps this strange human was more than he appeared to be. The Volanthi homeworld was called Volan. It was a beautiful planet with purple skies and silver forests. The trees had leaves that chimed like bells when the wind blew through them. The rivers glowed faintly at night, filled with tiny creatures that made light. Taiho had never seen anything so beautiful. And he had never felt so alone. He lived in a small room in the Imperial Palace. The room was nice enough, with a soft bed and a window that looked out at the gardens. But he was a stranger here, a human among aliens, a servant in a world of kings and queens. The first weeks were hard. He had to learn everything about Volanthi life. How to walk properly, how to bow correctly, how to speak without offending anyone. The rules were endless and confusing. The other servants treated him like he was invisible. The nobles treated him like he was dirt. They whispered behind his back and laughed at his mistakes. Taiho made many mistakes. He ate with the wrong hand. He bowed at the wrong angle. He spoke when he should have been silent. Every day brought new failures and new embarrassments. But he did not give up. He wrote down every mistake and studied it at night. He asked questions even when people laughed at him. He practiced the Volanthi language until his throat hurt. Princess Yura watched him from a distance. She did not speak to him much at first. He was her servant, after all. It was not proper for a princess to talk casually with a servant, but she noticed things. She noticed that he never complained. When people insulted him, he just nodded and tried to do better. When he failed, he got up and tried again. There was something stubborn inside him that would not break. One day, she found him in the palace library. He was sitting on the floor, surrounded by old books written in the sacred language. He was trying to read them with a translation device, but the device kept giving wrong answers. Those books are not meant for outsiders, she said. Taiho looked up. He was surprised to see her. I know, princess. I am sorry. I will leave. Wait. She walked closer and looked at the book in his hands. It was a collection of old poems about the goddess. Why are you reading this? I want to understand, he said. Your world. Your people. Your beliefs. I cannot serve you properly if I do not understand what matters to you. Yura sat down on the floor next to him. It was not proper behavior for a princess. But something about this moment felt right. I can teach you, she said quietly, if you want to learn. From that day, things changed. Yura began spending more time with Taiho. She taught him about the sacred texts. She explained the meaning behind the rituals. She told him stories about the goddess and the ancient Velanthi heroes. In return, Taiho taught her about Earth. He showed her pictures of mountains and oceans. He explained human history, with all its wars and mistakes and triumphs. He played music for her on a small device he had brought from home. Yura had never heard jazz before. The first time she heard it, her markings flashed with confusion. "This music has no order," she said. "The sounds go everywhere. It is chaos." Taiho smiled. "That is the point. Jazz is about freedom. The musicians do not follow strict rules. They create in the moment. They surprise each other. But how can something be beautiful without rules? Maybe beauty does not need rules. Maybe it just needs feeling." Yura listened again. This time, she tried not to think about structure or tradition. She just let the music wash over her dock. Something loosened inside her chest. For the first time in her life, she felt free. The months passed. Taiho became better at Velanthi customs. People stopped laughing at him. Some even began to respect him. He was strange, yes, but he worked hard. He never gave up. And there was something warm about him that was hard to hate. But danger was coming. Emperor Colas, Yura's father, was dying. He had been sick for a long time, and now his body was failing. The question of who would become the next ruler was tearing the palace apart. Yura had 2 older siblings. Her brother Varath was strong and cruel. Her sister Mani was clever and cold. They had always ignored Yura because she was the 3rd child, not important enough to be a threat. But now, rumors were spreading. People whispered that Princess Yura had been blessed by the goddess. The strange binding with the human, the golden patterns in her markings that some servants had glimpsed. Perhaps the 3rd daughter was chosen for something special. Varath did not like these rumors. One night, Taiho was walking through the garden when he heard a sound that did not belong. A soft footstep in the shadows. The click of a weapon being prepared. He did not think. He just acted. He threw himself into the darkness and crashed into the assassin. They rolled across the ground, fighting. The Velanthi was trained and fast. Taiho was not elegant, but he was fierce. He fought like a wild animal, using every trick he knew. When the palace guards arrived, they found Taiho sitting on top of the unconscious assassin. His face bloody, but his eyes still burning with fire. Princess Yura ran into the garden. When she saw him, her markings flashed bright with an emotion she could not name. "You saved me," she whispered. "That is my job," he said simply. But it was more than that. And they both knew it. In the weeks that followed, Taiho saved her life 2 more times. Each attack was more dangerous than the last. Varath was getting desperate. The Velanthi court began to look at the human differently. He was not elegant like them. He did not fight with grace or honor. But he was effective. He was loyal. And he would not let anything hurt his princess. By the end of the year, Yura's markings had changed completely. The blue and purple patterns now had thick threads of gold running through them. This color appeared only when a Velanthi soul found its true match. She knew what it meant. She was terrified of what it meant, but she could no longer pretend that Taiho was just her servant. He had become something much more dangerous. He had become necessary. Emperor Colas died on the last day of the binding year. His heart stopped beating just as the sun rose over the silver forests of Velenar. The whole planet fell into mourning. But Varath did not wait for the grief to pass. Before the emperor's body was even cold, he marched into the throne room with 100 soldiers and declared himself regent. He said the empire needed strong leadership. He said there was no time for the traditional ceremonies. He said Princess Yura and her human pet would be dealt with soon. The palace became a prison. Varath's guards watched every door. Yura's loyal servants were taken away in the night. Anyone who spoke her name with respect disappeared. Teho refused to leave her side. They stayed together in her chambers, waiting for the end. "You should run," Yura said. Her voice was tired. "The binding year is over. You are free. Go back to your people. I am not leaving you. Vorath will kill you. He hates you more than he hates me. You are a symbol of everything he despises." Taiho sat down next to her. For the first time since they met, he reached out and took her hand. Her skin was cool and smooth. Her markings pulsed with soft golden light where he touched her. "Do you know what I learned this year?" he said. "I learned that your people think humans are primitive, emotional, chaotic, and maybe they are right. We are not as elegant as the Volanti. We do not have thousands of years of tradition. We make mistakes. We break rules. We do things that do not make sense." He looked into her dark eyes. "But there is one thing humans do better than anyone else in the galaxy. We fight for the people we love. Even when it is hopeless. Even when we cannot win. We fight until our last breath." Yura's markings blazed bright gold. "Love? Yes," Taiho said simply. "I love you, Yura. Not because of the binding. Not because of the goddess. Because of who you are. Because of every moment we shared this year. Because when I am with you, I feel like I'm home." Tears ran down Yura's silver blue cheeks. "This is not how things are supposed to work. You are human. I am Volanti. This should be impossible. Maybe impossible things are the best kind." She laughed through her tears. It was a beautiful sound. Then the door exploded inward. Vorath's soldiers poured into the room. They grabbed Taiho and threw him to the ground. They dragged Yura to her feet. Vorath walked in behind them. He was tall and strong, with markings that burned dark red with anger. He looked at his sister with disgust. "The human has poisoned your mind," he said. "But do not worry. I will fix you. After he is dead, you will remember your place." They were taken to the throne room. The great hall was filled with nobles and soldiers, all loyal to Vorath. He sat on the emperor's throne like he had always belonged there. "Today, we correct a mistake," Vorath announced. "My sister forgot her duty. She chose a human over her own blood. For this, she will be stripped of her title and sent to the Temple of Silence for the rest of her life. And the human," he smiled cruelly, "the human will die slowly. No." Yura's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone turned to look at her. "I invoke the challenge of illumination," she said. "I challenge you for the throne, brother." Vorath laughed. "You? Challenge me? You are nothing. A third daughter. A failure. The law is clear. Any child of the Emperor can challenge. Unless you are afraid to face me?" The nobles whispered to each other. Vorath's face turned dark with anger. He could not refuse without looking weak. "Fine," he spat. "We will do this the old way. Let the goddess decide." The challenge of illumination was ancient and simple. Two claimants would remove their robes and reveal their markings before the sacred altar. The one whose soul burned brighter would be chosen by the goddess. The loser would accept defeat. They stood facing each other in front of the altar. Vorath removed his robes first. His markings were strong and bright, dark red and orange like flames of war. Years of power and conquest had made them burn fierce. Then Yura removed her robes. The whole room gasped that her markings were like nothing anyone had ever seen. Blue and purple patterns danced across her skin, but they were threaded with thick rivers of gold. The gold pulsed with a warm light that seemed to fill the entire room. It was the color of union, the sign that a soul had found its perfect match. But there was more. High Priest Morath fell to his knees, his old eyes wide with shock. Among the gold, he saw the pattern of choice. And woven through everything, a new pattern that had not been seen in 3,000 years. the pattern of the bridge. The sign of one who would connect different worlds. "The goddess has spoken," Marth whispered. "Princess Yura is chosen." "No!" Vareth screamed. He pulled a knife from his belt and charged at his sister. Taiho moved without thinking. He broke free from the guards and threw himself between Voreth and Yura. The knife cut deep into his shoulder. Blood sprayed across the sacred floor, but he did not fall. He grabbed Voreth's arm and twisted until the knife dropped. Then he hit the prince hard across the face. Voreth stumbled back in shock. He had never been struck by anyone in his life. The throne room erupted into chaos. Voreth's soldiers attacked, but they were not the only ones with weapons. Loyal servants and guards who had been waiting for this moment drew their blades. And through the main doors came more help. Ambassador Jian walked in with Captain Doyen and a squad of human soldiers. They had brought a small fleet to Velanar, officially to witness the end of the binding year. But they had prepared for trouble. "Earth protects its people," Ambassador Jian said calmly. "And our people seem to include a princess now." The battle was short but fierce. Humans fought beside Volanthi. Taiho fought with blood running down his arm, his movements wild and unpredictable. He was not graceful, but he was unstoppable. When it was over, Voreth lay defeated on the floor. His soldiers had surrendered. The throne room was quiet. Yura stood before the altar, her markings still blazing with golden light. She looked at the nobles who had supported her brother. They fell to their knees. "Princess," Morith said, his voice filled with wonder. "No." "Empress, the goddess has chosen you." Yura closed her eyes. She had never wanted this. Power, responsibility, the weight of an empire. But she could not refuse what the goddess had given. She opened her eyes and looked at Taiho. He stood alone, wounded and bleeding, a human surrounded by aliens. But his eyes were warm and steady. "The binding year is over," she said softly. "You are free." "I know," he replied. "What will you choose?" Taiho walked forward until he stood before her. He did not kneel. He simply looked at her with all the love in his heart. "I choose you," he said. "Not because of duty, not because of fate, because somewhere in this year, I stopped serving you and started loving you. I choose to stay, if you will have me." Yura's markings pulsed bright gold. She reached out and touched his face, not caring who watched. "I choose you too," she whispered. "My strange, stubborn, impossible human." She kissed him then, in front of everyone. The nobles gasped. Morith smiled. The human soldiers cheered. Across the galaxy, species that had dismissed humanity began to hear the story. A human engineer had walked through the wrong door and ended up bound to an alien princess. He had spent a year learning her ways. He had fought for her, bled for her, and in the end, they had chosen each other. Humanity was not the strongest species, not the oldest, not the wisest, but they had something rare, the ability to adapt, to connect, to love without boundaries. The galaxy would never see them the same way again, and it all started because one engineer walked through the wrong door. Because sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the most beautiful destinies. Because love, as humans have always known, does not care about rules or traditions or what is supposed to be impossible. Love just chooses, and that is enough.